Okay, and if you would do the honor. Okay.
So we will call this meeting to order. It is 7:10. Roll call, please.
Okay, I'll just call who's here. Robert Gorski,
Here.
Mike Densford, and Brittany Stein is kindly filling in for the Chamber of Commerce, and Bruce Suffern. Okay, we have 4 people, so we don't have a quorum tonight.
Yeah, for the record, this is just an informational meeting. No action will be taken. But we certainly can answer any questions.
Okay, good.
Does that mean that this has to be repeated in the future for some reason?
This particular information, a lot of it's really timely. So, I mean, we'll talk about Restaurant Week again after it happens, but it's in 3 weeks from now. So this is kind of a preview.
Good.
Okay. So like Scott said, this time I'll kind of quickly go through this because you all have printed out some packets there for you if you want to follow along. I'm going to go probably rather quickly considering the pretty good amount of information that was included.
So for purposes of the agenda, we are on advertising data recap.
Yeah, we're,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, though. So when we've talked about branding quite a bit, as you all know, for a couple of years now, all the way from conceptualizing it to doing the RFP to selecting an agency and Scott and I and some other staff here meet with them almost every week, or typically at least every other Friday, to strategize and talk about our next move for branding. So a couple months ago here, when we first started talking about doing some of this mass media, going on to WGN, going on to Fox, a lot of the commissioners, as well as when we brought it to the board, were very inquisitive about how we would measure it. Instead of just saying we're doing all these ads or whatever, we wanted to get some metrics back. So, as I mentioned, in the packets, what I included were actually the metrics reports just as they were given to us from Fox and WGN. So I only have these 2 slides in here that kind of reduces all that just to kind of like what's the end number. But you can see from the WGN radio, and actually we had a few other of our commissioners here who aren't here tonight who were interviewed, but Bruce Suffern, Commissioner Suffern, was interviewed as retail anchor of downtown for many decades, I believe 40 plus years, and he was interviewed by WGN. And as you can see by the numbers, these are a lot larger, well, especially the radio. These numbers are larger than what we would typically have from the Village's typical social media, obviously. A lot of people just leave WGN on all day or in their place of business or whatever the case may be. You can see that we had display ads on their website, videos that were produced on a number of topics, ranging from Villa Olivia to downtown Bartlett to it was right before the Cocoa Crawl, so we were publicizing the Cocoa Crawl extensively. And you can see the radio impressions over 600,000. So that's a pretty big number. You usually don't see here at the Bartlett EDC talking about campaign impressions. That was for WGN. And then moving on, again, like I said, quickly, but you have the kind of a deeper breakdown of some of those in your packet.
Tony.
Yes, sir.
Impressions, what are impressions, and what were your expectations for impressions as opposed to the performance?
We didn't have an expectation, so to speak. We wanted to see that number in the hundreds of thousands, right? We realize radio, there's so many different forms of media, and some of them, they all have kind of different target demographics, so to speak. You'll get different demographics if you're on TikTok than if you're on WGN radio. So The numbers are basically in line with what we wanted. Scott's the one in our last meeting last Friday who asked if these numbers are similar to other communities that have done ad campaigns, and they are. They're not twice as much as Crystal Lake or whatever, and they're not half as much. They're right in line, with people who tune into WGN. And as you all know, or if you've grown up in this area, you know WGN TV and radio are like two of the main staples that have existed,
What are impressions?
It's played, it's listened to, it's played, it's viewed.
Just the demographics of the radio station when the advertisement was played.
Yes. Yeah, these are from their statistics. We shared them as well.
Okay.
When we got, the numbers weren't as impressive as these, but I mean, they were pretty popular when we aired them right before the Cocoa Crawl. Here's a nice shot of Mayor Wallace being interviewed on Fox TV. That was played right before all the Marion Bright events. You can see that their impressions on Fox weren't quite as high as we had, but I mean, it was on TV. People looked at it on the sports app, on the live stream. We had a banner on their website for a while, and if I may, Scott can confirm. He said he saw it while he was watching one of the football games. I mean, these were people. One of my neighbors told me when I was walking that he saw a Bartlett ad while he was watching TV. So, I mean, this is something that was seen far and wide. We did both of them, WGN and Fox. That was our branding consultants. We've engaged with A5. They're our branding consultants, and they recommended that we do both of these. It's part of their playbook.
Were they pleased with the results and all?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they were.
Response, I guess might be the right word, just like seeing an impact from this. You know what I mean? Like businesses looking to go to like
No, these were more for local events. This is more business retention, visit the village, shop in the village, dine in the village, than it is. These weren't really for recruiting new businesses. These were for events.
We do have a lot of data points that we're keeping track of from the start of the campaign to the end of it. Permits, things of that nature, new businesses, website visits, all these data points. No, I'm just saying it's. Right, that's a great question. The campaign didn't really launch aggressively until late summer. So in terms of seeing results aside from what you're seeing tonight, we're going to take a little more time to actually see the branding campaign come to full fruition. But we're charting those data points, and eventually I'm sure you'll see them. Yeah.
Yeah. And also this year, I think you'll see more economic development, recruitment type of branding initiatives as well. This is just what we did kind of leading into and through the holiday season. I can move on to the next item, which is what we were very deep into today.
Before you start,
Yes.
I would just like to say that I was very proud to be a Bartlett resident, a business owner during that campaign. So, well done, well done.
Thank you, and we would say the same to you. Well done. I mean, you spoke so nicely about your business and the evolution of downtown Bartlett and the village as a whole, and did just a fantastic job. You were great spokesperson for that.
During the course of our research, when we looked at some of these ad campaigns, in terms of the WGN takeover, that video that you're referring to, one of the correspondents at WGN said it was the best video they've done in about 4 years. And we looked at probably a dozen different towns, and I got to say, I actually agree. Yeah, we were very proud of it too. Thank you for that.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about Restaurant Week, which is 3 weeks from now. And I've got this graphic up here that just got posted today. As recently as last week, we had 12 signed up, and I kept rewriting my memo that there were 12, then 14, and instead I just said there's a good variety of restaurants because we had even a few more sign up today. So as of now, really the deadline was last week, but we're at 18 restaurants. As you can see by the list, it's a very nice cross-section of restaurants at all. It's not 12 pizza places and 6 Chinese restaurants. You got quite a nice variety there. We had WGN TV in today in the town in a very cold Monday. And we accompanied them, Scott and I accompanied them to 3 different restaurants. And 2 of them are the longest time anchors of downtown Bartlett, Pasta Mia and TL's Four Seasons. And then the third one was Isa's Venezuelan right across the street. They interviewed Pete, WGN camera person, and somebody from their morning show. I should say before I forget, it's going to air next Tuesday morning at about 10:30 in the morning. We're going to share it far and wide. You'll see it on the village social media and wherever we can share it. We're going to send it to the restaurants for them to share it. They interviewed just one restaurant. So they did interview Pete Caruso, who reminded us that he's owned Pasta Mia for 37 years and 30 years at that location and 7 years prior in Bloomingdale. So it's one of our top restaurants, obviously, and anchors of the village. They came in and, like I said, they shot what they call B-roll, some of the background, some of the other video that they'll be showing. There were just massive amounts of food prepared today at TL's and at Isa's. We got to sample a variety of items today, and that's going to, you know, when we're talking about our branding promotion, that's going to be another huge one. It's about a 5-minute long segment, if I recall correctly, and like I said, it's going to air next Tuesday morning at 10:30. So look, if you have the chance to watch WGN, I'm going to attempt to minimize out of this for a minute and show you also, we've had recently, oh, whoops, I did that again.
We had a choice of
Yeah.
dates to show the ad on WGN TV. We chose the date we did because it's the day after the inauguration. So we were told that that would have a high volume of viewership. So that's why we chose that date.
Yeah, thank you. I have to find this back on here. I might as well just say it instead of trying to get like 5 windows open at once, that we had coverage in the Examiner. There was an article about Restaurant Week coming up that was there on their front page last week, Wednesday. And then there's a Daily Herald article that was in last week as well. So we're getting a lot of nice coverage on it. And again, I always ask the commissioners, Chamber of Commerce, anybody to share some of our posts to try to expand the reach of it. This is really a core business retention type of thing. That's why we talk about it in economic development, because this is typically a pretty slow time of year for a lot of these restaurants, and this should drive some business, hopefully some new customers as well as repeat customers. And we have a page on the village website also dedicated to this, that you can just go to Belong in Bartlett. It's right in the village website, and it'll list all the deals at the 18 restaurants.
Are you gonna have like banners, posters?
There was talk of a banner being produced.
You know, like
Yeah.
you do for the 4th of July and the, you know,
Yeah, those will be up probably tomorrow or the next day.
So Restaurant Week, get your appetites ready and try to hit as many of those as you can with your family and friends. Tell people about it. The chamber has been promoting it a lot, and actually they helped us recruit some of the participating restaurants. We invited them. We talked about this probably 3 or 4 months ago at the EDC. We invited the restaurants 4 times each. I personally invited quite a few of them that are on the list. We know the invitations were going out kind of at a busy time of year, kind of around right before and after Christmas. So by the way, we're really happy with the number signing up. I think it's more than we expected, to be honest.
it paints a nice picture of the variety of establishments that we have here.
Absolutely, absolutely. A few of these have been in front of the EDC over the years with beta grants. I mean, now you're right, we have a Venezuelan restaurant and a Colombian restaurant and a tapas restaurant and a brewery and a real nice variety of them. And you can see some of them are, a lot of them are downtown, but then you got some all the way down south, Army Trail Road. You've got Beef Shack, and you've got a bunch around Route 59. And yeah, we're happy with that number. It was pretty slow. It was a little bit like pulling teeth getting them to sign up. Like I said, we had about 10 maybe a week ago. We wanted to get to double digits, and then they kind of started trickling in throughout the week.
Did you hear any reason why they did it, or was it just?
Well, I didn't call all of them. I emailed quite a bit of them. But, I mean, I won't say exactly who said what, but, some of them said, well, I saw the email, but I had 200 emails, and it was New Year's Eve, and, they had other stuff to attend to. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago we started talking about the first Oktoberfest and getting people to participate and getting the word out there. And like I said, 18's a really good number, considering we have, we talked about it, like, none of the fast food. You don't see McDonald's and Taco Bell on there, right? Or Subway. So out of the Bartlett-specific restaurants, we got like more than half of them. So, I think that's a really good start to that. And kind of a long answer, but I think once others hear about it, once they see it on TV, maybe some of the people that didn't respond, they'll want to do it next year. It'll be interesting to see who the list is when I sit here a year from now and tell you what it is in 2026. Hopefully it's all of them, plus a few. And I'll move on now because I put this down as a commercial property vacancy report, but really it's more of a shopping center-centric report. Now, in one of the upcoming meetings, for those of you who've been on the EDC for a while, and for Ms. Stein's information purposes, a long time ago, we embarked on really putting some key metrics that we wanted to measure in terms of our economic indicators. It's something that any town really should do. And when we started that, our overall vacancy, this is a long time ago, this was probably about 10 years ago, our vacancy rate in our downtown alone was close to 50%. And our vacancy rate village-wide was like in the teens or close to 20%. None of us want to relive those days. Bartlett Plaza, Streets of Bartlett, which was called Bartlett Plaza back then, was over 50% vacant for over 8 years. The Dominic's was vacant for a similar amount of time. And then a lot of the strip center spaces. So we started measuring every year vacancy rates, employment rate in the village, sales tax, revenues, number of business licenses, stuff like that. I'll probably be presenting it in a month or two. It's a lot of data gathering. So I started that bright and early this year, looking at all the shopping centers. So when I put that the vacancy rate has been low in the 5% range the past several years, that has been the number when measured in early 2023 and early 2024. I don't have the rate yet, and I'm not much of a gambling person, but if I did, I would say, again, it's probably maybe ticked up a little bit, maybe closer to 6, but it's probably still in that very low range. 10% or lower is considered very strong. So anyway, I'm going to quickly go through a lot of the shopping centers here, and feel free to stop me. Okay. What just help me, Scott? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So anyway, I don't have to talk about Streets of Bartlett too much. Mike's over here and can tell you. I call it full occupancy because even with Midway closing, Midway's going to be replaced. There was a massage business that was closed, and it's been replaced by an eyebrow type of business. Manny generally keeps this place filled. If something closes, the center's doing so well, somebody else is going to come in, or Manny will come in. So again, this went from the most highest percentage of vacancy for many years, mostly due to the former Fresh Market being vacant, but there were spaces throughout. So anyway, they're at full occupancy, so I start with that one. This is called Apple Valley Center. It's also at full occupancy, and similar to Streets of Bartlett, but it's been like that for decades. The whole time I've been here, usually when something closes, somebody else wants to come in there. It's a high-profile center. It's got a great location, great visibility on Route 59, and you can see, it's mostly locals, but there's a few nationals in there too, Jersey Mike's and the, I can't see the name of it, but there's the place with the fruit arrangements, edible arrangements. These are two others that are at full occupancy. I guess there was one vacancy in Bartlett Commons. That's the one where Bannerman's is located and the Dollar Tree. I think there was one small vacancy, but I was told that there's somebody coming into that space now. I always say this at the meetings. It sounds a little vague sometimes. There's always businesses looking around. So I'm always reaching out to the brokers and the owners of these centers. It's no big secret that I've been trying to get a dispensary here in town. So I've been calling a lot of the centers again, looking for appropriate spaces, and they really don't have them. So these are two centers, and then also Bartlett Square is on Army Trail Road and Route 59, right off the corner there. And they're at full occupancy as well. So when we talk about 5% vacancy only, we talk about it in terms of complete commercial square footage in the village. So one filled Jewel or Home Depot that's like 60 or 80,000 square feet counts, more than these do because of their sheer size. So basically, I should have said that at the beginning, it's based on square footage. Full occupancy still and close. You see Bartlett Orchards is that little retail strip center right across the street from Jewel. And like I said about a few other centers, they had maybe 2 vacancies a year ago, and they've both been filled. They usually keep
And
that.
close mean?
I'm sorry?
What does and close mean?
Oh, and close, full occupancy and close. What I mean by that is there was 1 vacancy in the Galleria, and that is the retail strip center on Army Trail Road that has Beef Shack. So they're close to full occupancy. There's a burrito business called Dos Bros that's coming in there. That's the picture of them. They're coming in right next to Beef Shack. So they'll be at full occupancy as well.
Okay.
That opens. And they're already underway. So that's not a maybe, they are coming to town. That's like, their business is like a model like Chipotle. That's Mexican food with bowls, and you go down the line and point what you want. These people, I can't remember the exact, it was months ago we met with them, but I think they have like 5 or 6 other locations in the area. There's only 1 vacancy just a couple doors down from here. It's that former comic book location. That's Main Street Plaza. Not the best picture I ever got of it, but there's 2 owners in this center. One of them we've seen before you about a year and a half ago, remodeled the north end of it where Boss's Signature. South end of it just has the 1 space available right now for rent. Westgate Commons, I should point out, are condominiums. It's different than a strip center, than these other shopping centers that I've showed you, where you could call Manny, or you could call Peter Carlos who owns it, or somebody owns it. These are all individual units. So when something comes available there, usually it's a condominium. And there are about 3 spaces available there right now. And we do engage with businesses. Hopefully the next BETA grant application you possibly see coming, or I don't know if they're going to apply for it, but we are already working with a restaurant that would be going to where Wheaties used to be located. So there is another one. That's what I mean, new restaurant coming soon. That's going to be another Latin-type restaurant, like with Mexican food and South American food. Brewster Creek Shopping Center, again, just really 1 space available. They're relocating their video gaming business. That's the center we were working for a while, trying to get the dispensary to come to, because they had a space that would be large enough to accommodate 1. But that's just 1 space. Again, sound like a broken record, but this is one of the centers that usually keeps pretty full. Right at Stearns and 59, it's in DuPage County. So we're looking, that one's probably about 90+% occupied. But I'm about to get into some that have multiple vacancies. Oh, 1 more that has 1 more space to fill. This is called Shops at Fire Hills. That space where it's kind of an older picture, where the salon was and the cleaners were is vacated. There's a new dentist business came in, I think, where the salon was. There's just 1 space over there available. Again, it's usually 1 that keeps pretty much fully occupied. Right across the street, however, we have 4 spaces available now. Just 1 short year ago, you remember one of the BETA recipients we were real proud of, the bakery closed last year. And also there was a small retail place just for a year called Happy Hangout, and those are both gone. There's a corner space there that's never been occupied since it was built almost 20 years ago. And there's 1 small space also in the back that usually isn't too attractive for people unless maybe it's like a small office and somebody would come to it. Everybody wants to be kind of front and center. That's why the corner space has been so hard to lease, as well as the space in the back. We do have a prospect for the former bakery space. I would hope that before this year is out, we talk about at least one new tenant in Bartlett Town Center. But that's one that's right across the street, and when I talk about has a couple more vacancies that they didn't have last year. Divine and Prospect has two. One of them is a business that moved in, or leased a space, but never really moved in. It's just a small 1,500 square foot space. And then the 2,700 square foot space is next to Brock's. It's where the karate business used to utilize it. And they moved to a bigger space a couple of years ago. Anyhow, there's two spaces available there. So again, that's something we need to work on this year. We have shown it to a number of prospects, but no takers as of yet. Stearns Crossing has the most vacant spaces of any of our centers. They're from this very corner that I photographed down along Stearns. So as you know, there's a healthcare business that is the big anchor of it. The outlet building that has McMay's in it is part of Stearns Crossing as well. This is one where we have quite a few vacancies, and as a staff, as an economic development staff, need to promote it a little more this year. It's always been a good center with good tenants. But
I was going to say, this seems to be, out of all of what you've shown so far, this seems to be the toughest one. Are you hearing why this is so difficult to put stores in this one?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Well, visibility, that's the answer. A lot of the retail spaces, I mean, some of them don't have, some of the other ones we went over are like off the beaten path, like the one Bartlett Orchards, it's by the Jewel, but it has good visibility. You know, it's a convenient place to stop. A lot of times when we try to pitch this center to people, that's one of the things they say, at least. They say the visibility. They like where the bank is located. They like where the veterinarian is located, you know, where you can see it when you're driving up and down Route 59. I would say the greatest challenge to those spaces is visibility. They happen to have some of the brokers they utilize are some of the biggest brokers in the Chicago market. They're using Mid-America. Truthfully, they haven't been the most aggressive on this center, but we started engaging with them again, as I mentioned earlier, looking for a space for a tenant.
So in this case, it's availability over cost. Like, I was thinking that maybe this one costs more than others.
It does. It costs more, and the visibility is,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on who the tenant is. The areas that were vacated, like the big one was a RE/MAX office, and there's some other kind of more local businesses that go into there. It's hard for me to answer exactly why it's been so challenging. We've always said, well, we could talk all day about the difference between Cook County and DuPage County taxes. So it's in DuPage County. It has a good anchor business that won't go anywhere. I think, you know, if we had to pinpoint the number one reason would probably be due to visibility of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oakfield Center has 4 vacancies. This one's had a lot of vacancies for a long time. They had a broker years ago who was successful in filling a lot of the spaces. We'll be honest about it and say this center tends to suffer from deferred maintenance. And actually, it's part of our new TIF district. Due to some of the, I don't know, some deferred maintenance is a nice way to put it. There's some dilapidation. There's been some kind of long-term vacancies in there. It's not to say there's some really good tenants in there. The 7-Eleven's been in there forever. The auto repairs changed owners and names a few times, but it's been there. And Chio's House is a very good restaurant. So there's some nice businesses in there. It tends to be one of the cheaper rents in town. And yeah, we would like to see that center uplifted and get a few more tenants in it in the coming years. Like I said, it's within the TIF district. So there's a possibility of incentives for it in the future, but as of now, this is what it looked like as of last week, so. So the last two really contribute to our vacancy rate, but they're not the hardest vacancies we have in town. I'm sure you've heard by now that the CVS on Army Trail Road is one of them that's going to close, as a matter of fact, this week. I did put in a couple of calls, but it's hard to get a lot of information out of it. The best I can tell you is that there's a corporate lease. There's 2 different leases on it, and one is on the land, one is on the building itself. I hate to dredge up the old Dominic's scenario again from 12 years ago now, but if you recall, Dominic's was owned by Albertsons at one point, and they kept paying the lease, and they wouldn't allow another grocery store to go in. And for this one, it's to be determined. I can't sit here and answer right now if it'll even be available this year or next year. I would make the assumption, because I know CVS is closing hundreds of stores, that they'll do whatever they can to negotiate their way out of leases. Again, I don't want to be quoted. This has all been told to me by brokers who I go to and I trust. Their lease is for several more years. So whether they just keep paying the lease and have an empty store, whether they decide to sublease all that's what we would hope. And I did actually get a call already from somebody interested in it. Good. I mean, it's a great location, obviously, but the building itself and the dynamics of the corporation selling off a land lease to one person and a building lease to another, that just seems kind of messy to me. But I'll keep you posted. We're not going to forget about it. Nobody wants to see an empty 12,000 square foot building on a big corner for years and years. Nobody wants to see that. And nobody wants to see an empty car wash for many years either. And then this is a spot that's had some interest. To maybe answer a question before it's asked, when we tell people to run it again, it has to be brought up to current code, not the codes of when it was built as it is today, with some mechanicals not working and upgrades needed. This is another one that hopefully we'll be able to get some traction on. There have been a lot of tire kickers. I probably had 6 or 7 calls on it. People asking, can they do other things besides car washes? But then the more they do in terms of due diligence, the more they see, oh, it's kind of like, might be less expensive to build something new than it is to buy something like this and try to bring it up to current codes. So again, when I talk about the vacancy rate of 5%, you've got some stubborn things like this. It's not huge, but you know, it's not like a space in the middle of Oakfield Center. It's like every time you go past it, you see an empty car wash.
But this is off the beaten path.
Yes.
To me, more so than some of the other ones.
It's way off the beaten path.
So it's surprising me that you're getting as much interest on this and, you know, some things that I mean, they're not right on 59, but they're close enough.
That's true. You know, the price has been dropped on it a few times.
Okay.
Well, I've been doing this a very long time, and then so what I'm going to say is people will just maybe drive past it or walk around and think that if they buy it, there's a switch that they can turn and and people will start bringing their cars there and they can start collecting money without really realizing they might have to upgrade the water system, or they might have to upgrade once something's closed like this for a period of time, it has to be brought up to current codes. And as Bruce can attest to, like, bring an old barn up to current code, it's a very, very costly and time-consuming endeavor. And, I don't think we necessarily want to offer a beta grant for a do-it-yourself car wash. If somebody wanted to convert it into something else, I'm sure that's something we would look at. That's a very challenging, I'd put it on there anyway, but just, that's going to be a tough space to fill. So I kind of wrap this up with, we do have a strong occupancy rate. I've ordered the reports that I get from CoStar that will detail the different rates. So you'll see that in one of the next few meetings. We promote these sites via broker blasts. Scott and I have returned to ICSC trade shows and to brokers. We get brokers looking for business sites all the time. Beta grants, I know we haven't had one for a while, but we're still offering them. We have currently 4 people at least wanting to get one or thinking about getting one. In terms of, and I think all of them are restaurants. And 3 of them are current restaurants wanting to upgrade, and one of them's a new restaurant that I mentioned, the Latin restaurant going into Westgate Commons. So we, if there's one thing that just going through this report for me made me realize is that some centers that I always think, they're going to be fine, like Stearns Crossing, we need to push a little bit more. Having 6 vacancies along one, leg of that along Stearns, it really is unacceptable. So I'm going to keep at least pushing the brokers a little bit. It's not one that we communicate much with the owners. It's owned by a real estate investment trust. And it's been owned by 3 of them in the 20 years I've worked with the village. So it doesn't mean that they're totally hands-off, but it's not like having Manny where you see him. Most of these other centers are owned by individuals in this area. As a matter of fact, all of them, with the exception of Stearns Crossing, are owned by local people. So there you have it. Lots of, small vacancies to fill. One really difficult one when CVS becomes available, and hopefully we're going to have to really kind of dig into that one to get somebody in there. I know I just went through a lot of shopping centers quickly. If there's any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
So do you have in your branding strategy that is transitioning now to Restaurant Week, is there another concept beyond Restaurant Week that you're envisioning or talking about?
Yes, we're still kind of early in that, but I mentioned earlier, more from a business attraction standpoint, we're looking at ways to promote various commercial corridors in town. So that is something we plan on doing. First we're looking at what kind of budget we can request. It's coming up on budget season again here. We want to continue the community branding efforts. So to answer your question, yes, we're looking at promoting some of our commercial areas more.
So like the radio thing that you did before Shop Local Friday, whatever it was called.
Yeah, Small Business Saturday, yeah.
Is that a one and done thing, or is that something that you're going to consider to do annually, or you're not sure?
I'd say not sure. we kind of spent a lot this year in our branding. We're going to take a hard look at what kind of value we get from it. So I'm not going to say we're not going to do it. I'm not going to say we are going to do it. I'm going to say we are going to keep looking at the numbers we're getting back. Like I talked about these Fox and these WGN numbers. We've had all good feedback so far, by the way. We're looking forward to this WGN one. In terms of whether we do that, I mean, we're gonna keep pushing it branding wise from the village standpoint. Can I say we're gonna put it on WGN and Fox every year? Probably can't say that.
We were kind of talking earlier about, from the village's marketing perspective, you do so many strategic goodwill things like National Night Out
Right.
is a goodwill thing. And Oktoberfest is kind of a goodwill thing. 4th of July is a goodwill thing. I just think that the goodwill that the residents and business owners received as a result of that radio campaign that you did, I think a lot of the trustees need to know how good people, residents, business owners felt that the village did that, you know, and to have the opportunity to voice that, I certainly would like to do that, and I think a lot of residents would like to do that as well. I think we all, I mean, if you lived in Bartlett, we know we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on all sorts of stuff. So, is it a lot of money? It is a lot of money. National Night Out is a lot of money. 4th of July is, you know, everything is a lot of money. This was a lot of money. But it also kind of hit a target in terms of goodwill, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll take those comments seriously, and we like to do that. Like I said, we have to, we're implementing different strategies as we go through the branding.
Yeah.
And it might change from year to year. This whole push that we've started probably back in November was more about local events, Marion Bright, Cocoa Crawl, come visit, and you know, now we're doing Restaurant Week.
Cocoa Crawl is probably, from a marketing standpoint, in terms of business, in terms of being a business that generated business and exposure and traffic, that Cocoa Crawl, number one.
Great.
For business. You know, Marion Bright, I love Marion Bright, didn't generate any business.
Well,
July doesn't really generate, you know, a lot of these things that are goodwill don't generate business, but that Cocoa Crawl generated business.
right, that's a great event.
The Halloween one too.
And
Well, so.
yeah, to a certain degree, but it's a different time. of year.
Exposure, I would say.
Exposure.
It generates, for sure. Like, none of it gives me, neither the Cocoa Crawl or Halloween gives me business.
Instant business.
No, because I actually shut down business during those events.
Right.
We're there.
But they meet you, they come through the door.
Yeah, it's great exposure. I mean, you can't buy the exposure as a small business that you get from those two events. I think they're phenomenal events.
So from a marketing standpoint, kind of, for what it's worth, kind of think about the goodwill kind of marketing dollars and then the marketing dollars that generate traffic for business. That's a different kind of.
Absolutely. We'll always keep that in mind. Marketing a town is multifaceted, and the branding is, and we've talked about that a lot, you know, in terms of what the goals are. And you're right, there are different goals. We've talked about it a lot. Some of it is just building a greater sense of community. Some of it is for exposing area residents to new businesses. We are hoping that Bartlett residents and people from nearby come to Restaurant Week and try restaurants that they haven't before. Cocoa Crawl, I suspect, is mostly area residents, but again, it gets people out, mingling a lot, visiting a lot of places they might not otherwise visit. I know I visited about 20 or so this year. And just one more thing I'll add, when we talk with WGN today, like I said, Scott and I spent about 3 hours with them today. They asked us about targeting demographics for the advertisements. When it besides just putting it on TV, for their social media. And we talked about, we want to push it to households in all the communities surrounding Bartlett as well. So it's not just going to be something that we're showing Bartlett residents. It's going to go, I think we're going to draw some people from out of town for it too. So for our events and for Restaurant Week and for the other things we have, coming up in the warmer months.
Nice thing about the branding campaign too is Tony and myself and a few other people on staff have really learned a lot about it. Things that we didn't know and different strategies that we didn't know. We've gotten a lot of help from our consultants. So one of the positives is that knowledge isn't gonna, we know a lot more than we did before. So we'll be able to do a lot of those things internally in-house as the future goes on.
You're going to see a lot more branding in the upcoming meetings. We're getting rolling on it now.
Any other new business?